3, 2, 1. Here's our gavel. I call this meeting to order. So welcome everyone to the November 17th Parks and Recreation meeting, and I think we have 100% attendance. No? Who are we missing? Van. Okay, he may come running in. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we're missing 2, but we have a good attendance today, and I'm so glad to see everybody. So we have public comment, and I have on my list that we have 4 people signed up for public comment, and so I will call you all to the front. Marilyn Alphin.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Alphin. I live at 5460 Pine Top Circle, and I'm with the Ridgelock community as well as the other 4 speakers. We're all on the Ridgelock community, and we're here to talk about the Mine Creek Improvement Trail, which will be put, and we're talking about...
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Specifically talking about option 2, which puts the Greenway moving from where it is now to just behind 14 of our units. So, but tonight I want to bring to your attention one word, and it's safety. And that's become a first priority word in our society now. You think about safety, school safety, shopping center safety, airport safety, event safety. And even if you're looking at the proposal right here, option 2 for the Greenway, and you see the first word presented to you in this proposal is the word safety. But what is it safety for? I'll read it to you if you don't have it. It's an improved direct alignment for safety of trail users, less transition, no sharp radii, and improved sight visibility. But then if you look at the cons on that page, look at the very last sentence. The residents of Ridgelock have expressed privacy and public access concerned about realignment. What word is missing in that statement that we're concerned about? And that word, I'm going to fill in the blank. Can you tell me what word is missing? And that word is safety. And I wonder why safety was left out when you're talking about, the disadvantage of putting the Greenway on our site. Why is the word safety left out? And maybe it's because you don't want to be reminded of the extreme violence that happened on the Neuse River Greenway. Maybe you don't want to be reminded that police are forming a task force just to patrol the Greenway because of all the crime. Maybe you don't want to read about the women who've had men exposing themselves on the Greenway, or else kids that go around and actually case out houses that they want to break into. That's why we don't want this behind our 14 houses at Ridgelock. And you think about, well, this was written by engineers. It was presented to you by an engineer. And it's through the eyes of an engineer. And what we want you to do is see it through your own eyes. We want you to look at our property. We invite you to come to Ridgelock and see for yourself what this actually does for us. As a matter of fact, we are willing to rent a van, put you all on it, take you to our property. Heck, we'll throw in a Jersey Mike's lunchbox. But we want you to see this for yourself. You will never understand it until you see it in your own eyes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Alphin. Donnell Bidet.
Good evening. Hi. I wonder if you have walked on the Ironwood Trail below Shelley Lake. It's where you can actually walk across the creek a couple times and over the charming Mine Creek. It's such a beautiful area. And maybe pause for a moment on one of the bridges or both of them and really take in the ambiance and the natural beauty of the whole thing. I do that on a regular basis. It's amazing. There are always songbirds down there, sometimes mallard ducks along the creek, and occasionally a great blue heron. It's just a great experience the trail that is currently there is amazing. This part of the Raleigh Greenway was built in 1973. It was one of the first 2 pilot trails that started the whole Greenway system. So naturally, it needs to be brought up to date. It's arguably one of the most beautiful sections of the Greenway system. So why not preserve its historical area that was so perfectly located to begin with? Its serpentine path creates a feeling of tranquility, and you wonder what's around the next corner. It's very natural and organic, exactly what a landscape architect would build. They intentionally build wandering paths and trails through the parks and gardens. We already have that. I am a fairly new board member of the Ridgelock HOA. I am the liaison with our landscaping company, working and maintaining the grounds and planning into the future. And we have plans for this small stretch of our land, our section of the creek. It's our only section that actually borders the creek. And we have a vision of rain gardens and more natural beauty, which is all currently in limbo. This year, we just freshly painted all of the darling little houses, those charming little lake houses along Forest Lawn. We resurfaced and resurrected the tennis courts. We do have plans for this area, and one of them is not to have the Greenway come right through our property. There's no one in our Ridgelock community. This is a community in the woods, and there's no one who wants the current Ironwood Trail to be removed or moved to our property, even worse yet. Have you really looked at what would be lost by abandoning this small section of exceptional beauty? I ask that you come and see it.
Thank you, Ms. Bidet. Kay Meningas. Can't quite read.
Hello, my name is Kay Meningas, and I live at 5734 Forest Lawn Court, and that is part of the Ridgelock community. And like the others before me, I'm here to express my objection to option 2 of the Mine Creek Greenway project that would move the portion of the Greenway from where it is now to directly behind our homes. Ridgelock is is an affordable housing community that's made up of a lot of young singles or retirees like myself and young married couples that are buying their very first home. And I do feel like that if this were a gated community or a lot of million-dollar homes, that we wouldn't be having this issue. But the thought of having the Greenway Trail moved behind my deck is kind of frightening because, like Marilyn stated before me, there is a safety issue. And I feel like that this would be inviting more crime into our areas. Also, I feel like that our peace would be shattered here by runners, hikers, bikers, and it's like where we live at now is such a peaceful, tranquil, beautiful place, and we have so much wildlife. And me, personally, I just absolutely love the wildlife, and I'm looking at it constantly. Also, and like someone said before me, I would like to invite each and every one of you out to come and look at our property so that you could just see firsthand how it does affect our community and our homes. Also, I'd like to mention that this is the 3rd time that this proposal has come up. Back in 2014, when that bond referendum was passed, it's like we had members of the Department of Parks and Rec come out and look at our property, and at that time, they assured us that they would fix the bridges, which is what's in question here, and that for us not to worry anymore, that this was a done deal, they would not come and bring this project back up. So just forget about it. Well, now we are, years later, and it's back up again. So I would like to invite you all out, and I thank you for listening to me, and I also ask that you please resist the proposal by moving the Greenway Trail behind our houses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then we have Deborah Mandley.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Mandalay. I live at 5745-3. I'm going to adjust this because it feels like a strange thing pointing at me. Deborah Mandalay, 5745 3 Oaks Drive. I'm here in a capacity as a resident and owner in the Ridge Oak HOA, and I'm also president of the board of directors. I think you're all quite aware we vehemently oppose option 2. I'm going to give you a few more reasons why, and I'm going to be more direct. We had 4 murders on a trail last month behind homes. I thought, honestly, that this entire subject would be quietly dropped from your agenda, and I'm shocked that it's not. I find it unconscionable that we are still talking about this, and that you all are willing to consider putting such a danger right behind our homes for saving, quote unquote, about $1 million. And speaking of saving money, money will be saved to the city, but guess who's going to pay the cost? Our HOA. All of our owners will pay that. I'm going to give you some examples of what it's going to cost. This is a cost shift measure, period. You're going to not have to repair those bridges if you adopt option 2. But what we're going to pay the cost on is our private road is going to become a parking lot for everybody that wants to get on that trail that's right behind our homes. They're not going to park across Millbrook Road in those 2 lots across Millbrook Road. They're going to park on our side, on our road. And they'll think it's perfectly fine. They'll think our tennis courts are public tennis courts. We will have people traipsing through our yards day in and day out thinking that it's perfectly fine and that everything there is public and available to them. We will have to increase the assessments on our homes. We'll probably have to have a special assessment, first one in 40 years, to accelerate the improvements on that road because of the traffic that's now going to be on it. We're going to have to pay for private security. We're going to have to put up security cameras. We're going to have to monitor them, maintain them, report trespasses to the police. And we're going to have people peering in to houses from that trail. There are not nice people back there determining who they can break into, who they can rape, and potentially murder. Those are the costs that we're going to be paying. We're also going to have additional flooding, because when you put in that trail on and take our land, put in a trail, we're going to have an increased drainage problem back there, which we already have. So I want you to consider this, and I want you to remember this. If you do this and you take our land against our opposition, and we will fight you, if you do that, the first time someone is assaulted or bothered or trespassed or burglarized or worse in our community, I will be back and I will remind you of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your comments. Is there anybody else that signed up? I don't have anybody else signed up to speak. Is there anybody else who intends to speak? All right. The next thing on our agenda is the Raleigh Youth Council.
Hi, I'm Cordelia McKelvey, and I'm the chair of the Raleigh Youth Council.
My name is Mary Baga. I'm the vice chair.
And I see a few new faces, so just a quick explanation of what we are. We are a teen community service organization. We volunteer around the city of Raleigh, and this is just an update of what's been happening since our last time meeting with you.
All right, so just to speak on what she was saying, some of our past events that we've hosted or partnered with, we held a specialized recreation event at Millbrook Exchange Park where we just had a dance with a bunch of people with special needs, adults, I believe, and teens were allowed to come, and they danced. We had snacks and drinks. We also had different stations set up for them all to participate in. I had a great time. I attended. We had a total of 69 participants and 35 volunteers, so it was a great turnout, and I had an amazing time. We also partnered with the Human Relations Commission. We held a teen town hall, which is basically we had like a round table discussion. We had teens from all over Raleigh, different schools, ages, grades, come and speak to us about some of the things that they're witnessing within our community. We talked about public safety, mental health, housing, community centers, and it was just a great experience to see what other teens around in my area were thinking about, some of the things that we're going through right now as a community, and we get to suggest like some of the things we like to see change and some of the things that we liked, and it was interesting to be a part of. We had 12 teens attend, and yeah. And then some of our meetings, because we are like a club, our Halloween meeting, we had a fun meeting. We carved pumpkins, we played some movies and had snacks. So that was some of the things that us teens partake in. And then our last meeting, it was this Monday, we had an activism and community leadership meeting. We had the teens come and pick, sorry, give me one second. It was like an issue. It was it was a cause that they were passionate about or interested in, and we had each group decorate different posters and speak about why they were interested in and passionate about. We had to present it to each group, and it was interesting being a part of and seeing how everybody decorated their posters.
Yeah, so it was just a chance for people to get involved about social justice topics they're passionate about, because a lot of teens, they don't have the experience, or they don't know where to start. So it was just like a foray into that. We had our first in-person overnight conference the first weekend of November. It was in Rocky Mount, and it was our mini-grant conference. I was one of the 4 RYC members who attended. In the past, we've had better turnout, but it was really nice to see a lot of people, more people than I was expecting from our council show up, honestly, because it's like the first conference in a while. And at this meeting, we worked in small groups to allocate $6,292 worth of grant money to organizations oriented around youth development. And I got to present 2 amendments. I helped make sure we allocated exactly all of our money. I think one of my amendments was for $217, just that way we could make sure all of our funds were going to support these organizations. We have a lot of upcoming community service. This Saturday we have volunteering at a coat giveaway. It's at Courtney T. Johnson Community Center this Saturday from noon to 5 p.m. I'll be volunteering there, and we'll hopefully be seeing a good turnout from Raleigh Youth Council. We also have our annual Christmas events coming up. Santa's Workshop on December 3rd and Toys from Teens on the following Saturday, December 10th. These events are structured very similarly. We'll have teens setting up and decorating the event. They'll be running craft stations and interacting with participants. The children that come visit will be able to take pictures with Santa. The main difference is at Santa's Workshop, we are still accepting gift donations, and at Toys from Teens, we'll be giving out those donations that our volunteers will have wrapped over the week. And I just wanted to let you guys know that we are accepting new toy donations for children's ages birth to teen at Roberts Park, Lake Lynn, and the Garris Building at Fred Fletcher Park. So we hope to get a lot of donations. That way we can give back to our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much. You really impress us every month when we hear about all of the activities and involvement. How many teenagers are attend your regular meetings?
Around 30. We definitely have new people joining over the course of the year, though.
That's great. Well, that is, I encourage, if there are any teens out watching us on YouTube, I doubt it, but you all really get a lot of good work done.
I just wanted to say that I attended the dance, and it was a joy to watch these handicapped folks come in and see each other. They hadn't had any event since the pandemic, apparently, and they were so happy to see one another. And the dance was a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of people in there dancing with disco balls and lights, and it was very lively. I was very impressed with what you all did. I was very impressed with the decorations and the way you all welcomed people. Good job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that event, it's usually one of our annual events, but we haven't had a chance to host it since my freshman year 4 years ago. So we're really excited to be able to have this event again back at the same community center. I did see some familiar faces, and it was a good time, like you said. So thank you I remember seeing you there, so thank you for coming and talking about it.
That's great. I'm so glad you were there, Marcia. And I did bring a whole lot of coats I collected from my neighbors, but I knew, given how it is to go through security, that I'd probably still be standing there with my coats. And so I'm going to give them to Mr. Eisler at the end of the meeting. So you will have, I think I've got at least a dozen. So
Thank you.
And if you'd like to donate toys, you can take them here or the 3 locations. Could you share the 3 locations?
Yeah, Roberts Park, Lakeland, and the Garris Building at Fred Fletcher Park.
Okay. You can email us. We will get them from you if you can't make it there.
that's great. Thank you.
What age range? I'll just talk to you. What age range are the toys?
Birth to teen.
Okay.
So we'll sort through them and wrap them and handle all of that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Just
All
to
right.
add on before you let
Oh,
us
yeah.
go, if you have any teens that you want to come join the Raleigh Youth Council, because we'd love to see new faces, just recommend we meet at Kiwanis Park Community Center every second and fourth Monday of the month.
From 7 to 8 p.m.
Y'all got that? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a presentation on the Mine Creek Greenway. And I think I'll go ahead and say, in response to both what the citizens have said, and I actually was out there walking on the Greenway this afternoon and took pictures, and also Bob apparently was out there yesterday, and my decision as I walked it today was that everybody needed to see this, and so we're gonna work on Stephen and Lisa and Giovanna will coordinate to find a time where we can go and actually not just walk it as we did with looking at and having a few questions, but actually having staff there to answer the questions. So we're going to see the presentation now. We will not be making a decision on this tonight because we'll have a chance to look at it firsthand. I think it's really important.
And Madam Chair, we'll make sure the neighborhood is also invited.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Lisa Schiffbauer. I am the Senior Engineering Supervisor for Greenway Capital Improvement Projects. I also have David Bender here with me. He is the project manager for this specific project and has been involved along the way. So any kind of technical questions, I'll be referring to him.
Well, and can I interrupt you right now and say that when we do have this field visit, I think it would also be very helpful to have the water department there so that they can talk about what trees are coming down as a result of that, so that we can kind of understand that part of it is sewer and the other part is Greenway. So thank you. I know
Todd
you won't
Toller
be addressing
is the
that.
project manager for the Raleigh Water Project, and we'd be happy to coordinate
Great. Thank you.
that with him. So as part of this presentation, we'll give you a little bit of background, and then we'll review those 3 alignment options. Option 1 being to replace structures and trail in its place in an existing location. Option 2 would be to realign the trail along the sewer easement. And option 3, to utilize the sidewalk infrastructure. So this is just an area map and showing the project location, which is located south of West Millbrook Road, downstream from Shelley Lake, and adjacent to Ridgelock and Briarwood neighborhoods. Mine Creek Trail connects to Shelley Lake, connects Shelley Lake to Crabtree Creek Trail, and is an important north-south connector of the Capital Area Greenway system. In the north part of our system, there's 2 trails that go north and south. This is one of them. So the need to replace these structures, which was originally identified in 2009, and it was due to the high use of this trail section, and because of the age and overall poor condition of the structures, including the abutments, the substructure, the decking. The condition of those is overall poor since 2009. Both structures are constructed of timber and are 8 foot in width, which is less than our standard 10-foot width standard in our current design standards. So public engagement started early in 2009. It resulted in a decision to maintain that current alignment. Therefore, the Parks Bond funding in the amount of $210,000 was allotted for this specific project as part of the 2014 Parks Bond. So additionally, around 2016, 17, Raleigh Water began their process and notified us that they had been planning for sewer improvements along Mine Creek, but it wasn't known until recently what impacts that sewer project would have to the Mine Creek Trail. So the improvements that were discussed back in 2014, 2015 were delayed so that we could better coordinate with the Raleigh Water Project, not knowing if the structures were going to be impacted. But combining those two projects is a better approach for project coordination. It's less disruption. And so that is what we chose to move forward with. So in June of this year, we hosted a public open house in coordination with Raleigh Water. Raleigh Water joined us, and we presented the option 2 alignment and received feedback from the community. The majority of the attendees were from the adjacent communities, and they were very concerned about the proximity of the trail for that realignment. And so as part of that, staff went back and looked at an additional alignment, which is the option 3 that we will also share here. So this is option 1, replacing structures in the trail in the existing location. I have, a map here. It shows those 2 structures, and it shows how the trail crosses over the creek, over to the east side, and then back over. It shows location of the Ridgelock community and the townhomes and the Briarwood community. So I have some pros and cons here, not all of them. All of the entire list is in your memo, so you can refer to that as well. So I'm just going to point out some highlights. So this would require, I say minimal easement acquisition. We would be working solely with the HOA property for this acquisition. And so one property owner. The cons of this alignment would be this, and I have safety as the number 1, looking at the sight lines, and I'm going to show you, well, pictures will, you can see a little bit from the pictures, but I think a site visit, you'll be able to see that a little bit more clearly. I'll come back to this. The tree removal, so what you see there today with a lot of the trees that are adjacent to the trail, these trees will have to be removed as part of the construction. I know that a lot of people really value the scenery along this portion, but in order to provide improved site visibility, to protect the trail for maintenance access, construction access, a lot of the pines that you see here will have to be removed. So it won't look like it does today. Stream bank stabilization, the trail, when you go there in person, you'll see that the trail is really close to the stream, and the stream is eroding. And so we'll have to do some pretty significant stream bank stabilization. And then the long-term maintenance, having to continue to do inspections of the bridges. I can say that the long-term maintenance isn't really a big deal, because once we put in new bridges, then those bridges will last, for a very long time. So it's just a matter of doing those inspections repeatedly every year. So that isn't a huge cost. So again, these are just some pictures. I'll pause here. The 2 structures, structure 32 and 33, You can see at the bottom,
Lisa, could I
Yes.
ask a quick question? When you mentioned that the trees will be removed,
Yes.
is that for the sewer or is that for the fixing of the bridges?
it'll be for both. So the sewer project will remove some of them, but not as many as we would have to remove as part of the project.
Okay. So regardless, a lot of the
Yes.
trees will be gone because of the sewer project.
Yes, I would say most of what you see here.
Because of the sewer project.
Because of the sewer
No.
project?
No.
No, the sewer project trees are in a different location than these the removal of these trees is related to the bridge replacement and the sewer. So the net is that the sewer, the trees being removed for the sewer are gone regardless. And then the next question is how many more trees are gone is what we'll see when we're there.
Required bridge replacement.
Yeah, because the bridges are much bigger. And the width of the trail.
What would the bridges be constructed of when they're replaced?
They would be the new style bridge that you see, which is a prefab core 10 steel bridge. So they wouldn't be made of timber. They would have concrete decking, and they would be of that newer style that you see. Structure 37 was just replaced. The old Z Bridge along Crabtree Creek, close to North Hills, it would look like that.
Oh, why not Trex? Just wondering.
I'm sorry, why not Trex? Trex has to have a very enhanced substructure because it's very heavy. It's actually very expensive, more expensive than the core 10 steel structures. And then the Trex also, the concrete decking provides a lot more track control than the Trex.
Yeah, no splitting.
Okay.
Can you explain what you mean a little bit more by the sightlines safety piece and how that aligns with other Greenway trails?
Yes, sure.
Sorry.
We're so close. Sarah.
I know, I'm like not looking at you. Can you explain what you mean by the safety sightlines piece and how that aligns with other Greenway trails?
Yeah, sure. So you can see, and really you're going to be able to see a lot better in person. You can see how on this map there's some sharper turns that you have to take. And then with the pine trees that are on the paved side, the trees block your line of sight as you're coming around at, a particular speed. I think even at the speed limit, sight visibility is an issue.
Mr.
Yeah.
Eckert? Okay.
Is this thing on? Yeah. So yeah, I can speak to that because I've ridden that trail and the sight lines are pretty horrible. So it can create some serious safety issues for individuals that are bike riding or skateboarding or whatever. So as you can see, well, the picture's gone now, but it's pretty tight through there. And the speed limit on the Greenway in most places is 10 miles an hour. Bikers don't ride 10 miles an hour.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and sorry. Is that something we're trying to do, like when we're refinishing or upgrading all of our trails?
Yes, to the best that we can. Sometimes we're limited by easement boundaries. We just completed repaving along the north side of Lake Johnson, and we're in the process of repaving the east side of Lake Lynn. And as part of those projects, we tried to minimize tree clearing for one, or we tried to balance the tree clearing so that we can improve line of sight, but we also adjusted the trail alignment to help take out any kind of sharp turns as much as we could. So we try to do better at providing that type of improvement within our new projects.
I have another question. Does this sound better? Okay. I know you're going to continue on explaining each of the options. So when you do, could you please explain, just to make sure everybody's aware of what easements mean, and then the difference in the easement shifts with each option?
Okay. And so The easement, I'll go back to this one. When I talk about easement acquisition with this particular one, with this alignment, the existing structure 33 is slightly outside of the existing Greenway easement. You can see where the green color is, where that yellow dot is. The structure is slightly outside of the existing Greenway easement. And so, therefore, we need to correct that issue.
Sorry, Lisa, can you make sure everyone in the room understands what easements are?
So,
I want to make sure everyone has the same baseline knowledge.
So you own property either by fee simple. So the property that the HOA owns, they own that property in fee simple. A Greenway easement would be an overlay of rights for the city to use that land for a greenway, just like sewer easement. So currently, on that HOA property, there is a sewer easement. And so the HOA still owns the land, but the city has the right to have sewer infrastructure there. And so it's typically written up into a deed, and then that easement is then either purchased, dedicated, and in this case, this easement would be acquired through compensation. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Given that the pedestrian bridge on the north side of Millbrook Road on the Greenway is the same vintage as the two bridges that you're proposing that we replace, does that one also need to be replaced?
The one on Shelley Road?
Under Shelley Road.
Yeah.
Under Shelley Road. Okay, so that boardwalk structure.
It's the same kind of construction, same era.
So that is not part of this particular project. That structure was not rated in the same poor condition that these structures are. So although it might look old, and timber usually wears that way to the point where it looks older, we do structure inspections yearly. And then we also do a more refined inspection on those structures every 7 years. And so a report is made on all those structures. So to my knowledge, that structure near Shelley Road is not, I'd have to look specifically what the condition is, but it has not been brought to my attention that that structure needs to be replaced because of integrity or anything like that. Maybe from aesthetics, it looks similar, but from the integrity of being able to be held up, to my knowledge, is not in the same condition as these two.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the answer on that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is option 2. This is the option that was presented during that public engagement timeframe in June of 2022. And so you can see again, very similar map showing remove the structures and trail, and then the realign in that peach line. And so, so I didn't want to have too many lines on this map, but this peach line follows an existing sewer easement as well. And I'll be able to show you that better in person and then in the pictures that I have. So to talk about the pros, having an alignment that is more direct and straight, staff feels that this option provides a better good site visibility than option 1. With this alignment, we'll be following mostly the sewer line, so there'll be minimal tree removal. There'll be 8 trees in total that would be removed. With this option, we'll have better maintenance access. So we won't have to turn, really sharp turns on trying to access, two structures and the segment of asphalt in between those two structures. Again, we can make that work. It's just that this option 2 alignment provides better access, maintenance access. And so some of the highlights of the cons, easement acquisition. Although that is one property, there are multiple residents that live here that have say and ownership in that HOA land. And it is closer to the neighborhood. For distances, the the closest the trail would be is 36 feet. The furthest is 69 feet, and the average is 53 feet. So here's some pictures of, let's see. So sewer easement, the cleared area is the sewer easement. Definitely looking in both different directions, north and south. So you can see the manholes, just part of the sewer infrastructure. On the picture in the center, proposed location realignment looking north. The townhomes are obviously on your left. The creek is on your right. And then on the far right picture where you're looking south, townhomes are on your right. That cleared area is the sewer easement. Creek is on your left.
While I really appreciate the pictures, I think that it'll all be a lot clearer
need to
once you're
see it.
there. The pictures, you just don't get the sense of scale. So appreciate the effort, but
Sure.
just like the ones I take don't convey.
So I'm going to pause here. Any questions about this particular option?
When we had talked about this, I think it was summer at that point, we had talked about potentially looking at other options in terms of that option 2 and seeing if there's another way of kind of doing this without having that encroachment on the easement. Did we evaluate that? Is there any proposals from there that came out?
So there is an option 3. So are you talking about in this same vicinity or just a completely different option?
I think we left it open-ended when
Okay.
we spoke last time, saying, can we please go back and reevaluate what other alternatives are available to us?
Yep. Okay, so we did that. That's an option 3. I just wanted to say with this option 2, we tried to utilize the sewer easement as much as possible. With this particular alignment, we're out of the Neuse River buffer. And so there's less disruption to the Neuse River buffer. So as far as environmental impacts, the location that we're proposing here on top of the sewer easement, it would be less environmentally impactful than if we moved it closer to the creek.
Kara?
If we went with option 2, what happens to the existing trail?
So the points between the 2 yellow dots on the east side, we would remove those. And we would restore that area back to, we would take up the asphalt, remove the bridges, and restore that area to natural.
Can you talk a little bit, when I was out there today, when I walked under, I parked on the Shelley Lake side and walked under the bridge, and then there's a lot of white tape around trees, not in the sewer easement, but up much in the white area just above where it says Mine Creek Trail. I think that's what it says there. So
Those are
is that
tags associated with the sewer project. And
Okay,
that does
so-
not mean those trees are being removed. It's just some sort of flag indicating a buffer or a flood line or, something
Okay, so that
of that nature.
does not mean they're being removed, but it is something that I assume that the sewer people would be able to answer that question on site.
Yes, and it could just be a survey. It could be a tree that's tagged to be surveyed, to be put on a survey map.
Okay. So there were a lot of them. So and so that was one question. The other question related to this, and we've heard questions about concern about access from the Greenway, and of course, people on the Greenway are at risk from people who live near the Greenway as well, as that was the situation last month. But if we're ultimately looking at option 2, fencing and other things along there, is that something that?
So this is something we put together for the public engagement, is how this could potentially look with fencing. And we are open to fencing and landscaping to provide buffer. And so that could be something that we would talk to the residents about what they want. This is a vinyl fence, but it could be something more decorative. And then landscaping, there's lots that we could do with the landscaping. We would, of course, have to stay out of the sewer easement with the landscaping and the fencing. But I think that there's enough room there to provide those things, those buffers and aesthetic items that could help improve providing some type of buffer.
Okay, Bob, and then Lindsay.
Can you back up a slide to where you were? The one that shows the route, option 2.
Oh, this one.
Okay. My question is, does the sewer line replacement generally follow the route you're proposing for option 2 Greenway?
So the sewer project in this location, they're not going to do like an open cut. They're going to sleeve the existing line. And so the construction is going to be really minimal. And there's no need for the sewer project to expand or widen their current sewer easement.
But the general location is on that side of the creek?
Yes, the sewer easement is generally, in the trail proposal would be generally in the center of that sewer easement.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. All right, will you go to option 3?
Okay, so like I mentioned, that this is an option that we looked at after looking at option 1 and option 2. So this is utilizing sidewalk infrastructure. We use a lot of sidewalk infrastructure whenever we're trying to detour around existing projects to provide a temporary route around sections of Greenway that are under repair, or sections of sewer that might be under repair. So this is very similar, but looking at it as a permanent. So with this option, we would utilize existing sidewalk infrastructure. We would also remove the existing structures 32 and 33 in that asphalt. I have a pink box around that. That is the area adjacent in between Briarwood and Ridgelock Community. So we would essentially remove that. And then there would be a gap in between the trail network that it would end on both ends. This option is probably the least one that staff would support, since it creates a gap, obviously, in the Greenway system and the user experience. So walking the sidewalk, of which I did, the grades are really steep. You would have to cross major roads and driveways to make your connection. There are existing bike lanes along North Hills Drive, which helps, but that is still, you still have pedestrians walking, you have people pushing strollers and things like that. So the user experience really is not really that nice. With this option, no easement acquisition would be needed, except for some temporary easements that we would need from the Ridgelock community to remove the existing structures. And so here are some pictures of the conditions along North Hills Drive in Millbrook. One real challenge here would be crossing Millbrook Road to North Hills Drive. There's quite a steep sidewalk there to navigate down to that sign, that 35 miles per hour sign. And again, just using existing 5-foot sidewalks. These are older neighborhoods with 5-foot sidewalk width. New standard for the city is 6 feet. You can see the bike lanes on North Hills Drive that don't entirely go the entire way, just a portion.
Questions?
Yeah, Lisa, are there sidewalks along all of that easement? Because part of that was on North Hills where there's a sidewalk, but then part of it was also on Shelley Lake Road, right? Is there a sidewalk there, or would that part of the Greenway actually be on the road?
Is there a sidewalk where?
Along Shelley Lake Road? So if you go back to that route, I can... You mean Shelley Road? Yeah, Shelley Road, sorry. Yeah, so that part on Shelley Road, is there actually a sidewalk there?
Yes, there's a sidewalk there.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called muscle memory, and my fear for the neighborhood on this was that people coming down the Greenway or going up the Greenway, when they reach that ending place, they would just detour across and onto the road, onto the neighborhood, and follow the neighborhood forest lawn, and then get back right on it. And so the effect would be completely the opposite of what is intended. I mean, it would be more intrusive on this route. People are not going to go around their elbow when there is such access. So I'm just...
Would that be what the Greenway would look like, or would you guys have to rip up the asphalt going all the way back down to reroute it onto the road and the sidewalk?
You mean if we were to use the sidewalk?
Yeah.
We would use the side. There'd be sections where we would have to make some improvements, but we wouldn't widen the sidewalk.
No, I mean, just to Beverly's point, so right now the two Greenways come really close together to that pink box. Would you guys, would that still all be Greenway on either end of that?
No, so it would dead end from the north, coming north, and dead end from the south, and we would remove what was in the pink box.
I think he's wanting all the way down where it says to Crabtree. Would we remove all that asphalt? And likely so, because we would not want people to bike up and then have to turn around. I think Beverly's point is people could probably then ride the sewer easement. They would just go to the terminal, ride the sewer easement, and get back on where. So.
Well, the sewer easement goes all the way down, so they would even do that further down.
Yeah, so
even if you removed the asphalt further down,
people would just
the sewer easement's still going to be there.
Yeah.
So with option 3, what would be the length of that part of the trail?
I want to say it's almost 2.5 miles. I'd have to go back and double check that. It's long.
Any other questions? Like I said, we're going to set up a meeting, hopefully a sunny day, and get out there and see.
I have a potentially dumb question. I don't know. Can you just replace the bridges where they are and just make them up to the standards?
That's option
That was
one.
option one.
That's option one.
But
Okay.
without like ripping out trees and making them wider.
So that's
No,
what you
we
would-
because of the nature of that construction and bringing in a
Right.
crane with a bridge, you really need that access. But we also want to open up the existing trees are damaging the asphalt because they're
asphalt's
right
so soft.
adjacent to it.
Right.
And so we would need to remove those trees so that we can protect the asphalt in the future.
Any other questions? Question? Okay. Not at this time, no. There's public comment at the next meeting, but, yeah. We'll definitely
in
entertain
person.
questions when we're together in the field, but not further at this.
So this is just a side-by-side comparison of easement acquisition, safety, user experience, tree removal, stream impact, trail gap, long-term maintenance, maintenance access, and cost.
Lindsay,
And
you had a question.
That's it.
Yes. So Lisa, what would the if it was moved, which is an option 2, I'm trying to visualize what would the new trail, if it was relocated, be made of? What would it be constructed of?
Asphalt.
It floods right there. Do you guys realize that it would just be like literally standing water? I lived near there, and you know, during COVID, we all explored a lot more. I went all the different directions. So, I mean, I found stairs through a hill over there. I went over there, and all the different directions, and it floods right there. So where you're proposing moving it to putting asphalt, it would literally just be standing water. Whereas where the Greenway is right now, because I've spent a lot of time out in all the different directions, it doesn't flood there. But if you relocate it and just put asphalt, it would literally just be increased standing water.
Well, as part of the Greenway construction process, we take out bad soils and replace it with drainable soils. And so that would be one part of the process that we would do to help alleviate that flooding. I know that there's some drainage problems out there now. We would work with the community and try and help improve that. And so I don't necessarily see that as an issue. The way that we design, construct our greenways helps drainage, helps improve drainage. So I anticipate the same with this.
Okay. I mean, it's a lot of area that just holds water. How do you determine when you see that side-by-side column that you had with the comparisons there at the end? The one on the far right is most comparable to what the taxpayers agreed to when they voted on this bond in 2014. So it really doesn't seem fair that here the taxpayers agreed to a certain amount 8 years ago, and now we come back because it's been delayed this long. And I understand like the logical reason of like wanting to align with doing both projects at the same time. That makes perfect sense. But now the taxpayers and the community have to eat the cost and really have a major disruption. So how do you determine a fair acquisition compensation when you can't put value on the change in dynamics of what that community where they live, what their life is like there? How do you determine that? Because I think when I read the memo, it said $70,000 compensation, but if that's a shared affordable housing community, who gets compensated? Like how do you do that fairly, and how does that compensation get distributed?
I'm not sure that that's a fair question for Ms. Schiffbauer. I'll be honest.
Although I can answer part of it.
Okay.
I can speak to the first half. We did 70 projects in this bond. Probably 68 of them did not come in on price. So every project that we do, there's trade-offs, right? So our transportation bond, I think 1/3 of them had to be postponed. So projects do over time, they cost more. So you're right, $200,000 in 2014. In those days and times, we could have done it. But now it is more. But I would say that the market we are in the last 4 years, every city infrastructure project is reviewed from its original budget. And then we'd figure out trade-offs. And that's the trade-offs that we're waiting tonight.
All right. Any other questions? And we'll move on our agenda because we're not making a decision on this tonight. For clarity, it'll be probably on our January agenda because we are not addressing issues of substance in December, but we will, before the holidays, have a time that we can meet, and we'll set that with meeting with the community and meeting with sewer and meeting with as many of us as can get there.
Can we also have someone there who will describe the impact of the replacement of the sewer?
Yes, that's what I.
Because that's integral part of
absolutely
the impact. And without that,
absolutely.
I really can't visualize just the Greenway itself.
No, we'll have the sewer, we'll have the trees, what trees flagging means, and so I think being on site for me was very, very helpful. And I think I want everybody to have that same opportunity and have all their questions answered. So at that time, we'll have communication and exchange with everyone. Thank you.
Just a question, Madam Chair, for the community representatives. Managing calendars, who would like to represent trying to get as many neighbors as possible? Who would want to be? Okay, we just want to make sure that we're accommodating. Yep.
Coordinating
Yep.
with the chair.
Okay.
Yeah. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have Kate Pierce to give us a Dix Park update. No sewer lines, I hope? Well, yeah. Actually, shouldn't have said that.
Water line.
Water line.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's good to be here tonight and see so many friendly faces and new faces. My name is Kate Pierce. I am a planning supervisor with Parks, and I lead the Dix Park project for the city of Raleigh. I'm going to give you all an update on a lot of ongoing projects. It's a lot of information, so please stop me and ask questions as we go, and then obviously answer any questions that y'all may have. All right. So with Dix Park, we have a number of ongoing projects, from physical construction projects to planning projects to building and abatement projects and accessibility improvements. All of these are spread across the park. So this map highlights all of our ongoing projects, from the construction of the Gibson Play Plaza to the Rocky Branch feasibility study and accessibility projects in the park. And I'll touch on each of these separately, and also please feel free to answer questions. The joke about the water line, the Raleigh Water is looking to install a water line to connect the Pullen lift station to the Bain plant, and it is looking like it's coming through Dix Park, and it is that brown looking line on the left side of the page. And so that was, I don't have a slide specifically about that, but can get that information to you. So the first project I wanted to bring up is the Gibson Play Plaza. This is an 18.5 acre play and community meeting space that is currently under construction. It is going to feature a lot of different elements, from adventure play zones to picnic areas to all sensory abilities, maze areas, a stormwater wetland, which is going to be funded partly by stormwater because it's demonstrating best practices, to a number of other garden spaces, all-season garden spaces. So really think of this as a play and plaza area in a garden-like setting. The amount of plant material that's coming into this project is pretty significant, and it'll be, I think, a pretty amazing space once it's done. Where we are is, oops, not there. Where we are is we broke ground a couple of months ago. We're anticipating a 27-month construction schedule and anticipated opening Q1 of 2025. We have site fencing up. Early building abatement and demo is happening this month. Utility coordination is happening with Department of Health and Human Services. Construction roads are being built, but you're really going to start see things going at the beginning of the year. I did want to mention Lake Wheeler Road. That is not a Parks project, but it is funded by the Parks Bond, and they're actually having their community meeting tonight. And so wanted to mention this project. If y'all would like more information on the Lake Wheeler Road project, we can have transportation staff here. But basically, the Lake Wheeler Road project is looking to improve Lake Wheeler Road from the farmers market to the intersection at South Saunders. Currently, it's a 2-lane undivided avenue, no curb and gutter, no sidewalks, no bike facilities. It's a pretty there's not a lot going on except high volume traffic through that space. And what the plan is looking to do is to convert Lake Wheeler Road into a 2-lane divided avenue with pedestrian and cyclist accommodations to increase safety and connectivity for all users. It does increase access to Dix Park. They're looking to reduce speeds, and there are some real constraints, primarily the Duke transmission lines. So that project is in front of the community tonight, and they are going to bring it back out for a round of public engagement, begin kind of some real estate acquisition, and then the idea is that they would begin construction fall of 2023 and opening 2 years after that. One of the most interesting studies, yes.
Going back to the Gibson Play Plaza,
Yes.
2 questions. Can you compare and contrast parking at Pullen with parking at the Play Plaza,
Yes.
and also acreage of the active space at Pullen? I know Pullen's a lot bigger with tennis courts and everything else, with the active space at
I might have to ask some of my colleagues, the active space acreage at Pullen. Anyone? What is it? Total acreage at Pullen is 48. 48, and the kind of the program space?
Yeah, probably about half of that. About 25. Okay.
So Pullen, 28 acres, about half of that program space, 14 acres. So that would be the carousel area, the play areas. I do not know the parking count at Pullen either. I have that in a study. We can get that information back to you. What?
Yeah.
Never
Yes.
enough
Not at
parking,
all.
but if everybody were on bikes, we wouldn't have that issue.
Right. We can follow up with both of those comparisons and get that information back to y'all.
I think it's an important, because they're so proximate to each other, and people have a frame of reference for one, and they don't have a frame of reference
Yeah.
for the other. So.
Yeah, the parking, we are adding, in the lot that you see on the screen, we are adding 157 parking spaces. It is all permeable parking, and so it's we're excited to bring kind of a different type of parking scape. To put it in perspective, though, the Dix campus has about 2,000 parking spaces on it currently. Now, most of those are leased to the Department of Health and Human Services and would not be available to park goers during business hours, but would be available after hours and on weekends. So we're trying to minimize the construction of new parking because of the approximate access to all of that. And I'll mention the Wake County money that we've received. What we're doing is we're using a lot of that to help build accessible connections to the existing parking and the Gibson Play Plaza to take advantage of that existing parking.
Kara?
You mentioned there's going to be a lot of plants in the Play Plaza. Will these be native plants?
It is a mixture. There are a lot of native species and cultivars going in to increase the biodiversity of the site.
Marcia?
Did you all consider doing a parking deck in that space so you could double or triple?
We haven't considered it in that space, but we have looked at parking decks in a couple of other areas very proximate to this, with the whole master plan in thought. So this parking area is meant to be kind of specific for the grand entrance of the Play Plaza. In the master plan, whether or not this gets built is a question, but in the master plan, there is a large amphitheater planned, and we have looked at a parking deck in that area that would be tiered and is basically right across the street from this. I think one of the pieces is also having a parking deck right on your Lake Wheeler Road frontage may not be the best usage of that space.
I'd like to say that if you consider doing a parking deck, I would really, thank you, Carol, would really encourage you to look at doing it so it blends in, either having lots of green vines or some trellises or something so that it's not harsh.
Parking decks, just to be honest, they're real expensive. So when we look at our public-private partnership, we're thinking, can we leverage a public-private partnership to help us build a deck, which the building and site analysis is helping us understand. But yeah, there's some really great examples of other parking decks in other urban parks like Piedmont Park in Atlanta, has an amazing hidden parking deck that's into the grade, and we have a lot of grade change at Dix Park as well.
I would note that with the developments building along Lake Wheeler, Kate talks to everyone that's coming in, and they are oversizing their parking, knowing that people will come to their developments, walk across the newly improved Lake Wheeler Road. So we'll leverage those. And the average cost per parking space is about $50,000 per parking space in a parking deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we stopped building them as a city.
Kate, I can also interject. I believe that long-term, we're looking at walkability. We're looking at BRT connections.
Yes.
Some of us in Southwest would like to see BRT a little closer
Right.
than is currently proposed. That's going to be negotiated. So there'll be more than just automobiles in the future, hopefully. We're looking at community, walkability, accessibility, and those kinds of things more than just everybody driving, which is our traditional way.
Great point.
From out of town, they're going to come in cars.
That's true. Yep.
But great point, because, and I have seen the presentation on the Lake Wheeler Road expansion. And one of the other challenges with Lake Wheeler, besides the utilities, is that it is a downhill.
The grade.
And the grade is very, very steep there coming down.
And that's one of the things that they're working through is the bike and pedestrian amenities there because of the grade and the speeds is something they're paying a lot of attention to.
Great. Well, thank you.
So, 2019, we finished the master plan for this project. One of the things that we need to do more work on is what are we going to do with all the buildings that are on this campus? There are 85 buildings, over 1 million square feet of building space, and the city of Raleigh becomes responsible for all of that July of 2025. So we are building off the previous study, and just to put that in context, that's about double what the Parks Department has in its inventory right now. So building on the findings in previous studies, the building and site analysis is looking to provide recommendations on building demolition, building reuse, and program and partners. And so what has that really done? Well, I should also include the building analysis also includes an assessment of all the site infrastructure, which includes water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, thermal, and telecom. And I will tell you from my meeting today, the key finding was it all has to be replaced. From the physical analysis, we're looking at all of the buildings, all of the infrastructure systems. We're also developing a financial model. So what are the costs going to be, and then what are the potential revenues that could come for potentially like adaptive reuse of buildings. And this work is all in partnership with the UNC School of Government. They help public sector entities work through real estate challenges and come to conclusions. So all of this work is underway right now to assess the physical campus and develop the financial framework so that council and others can make decisions based on numbers and trade-offs, and we haven't had those real numbers to date.
What's the time frame for that?
Initial results will be in March, April, and then it'll roll into a phase 2.
What will be phase 2?
Phase 2 will be looking at all of the existing buildings and what are some public-private partnership development strategies that could come in and help us with those buildings.
What role would the board be playing when we get this information?
So there is a board in which the chair sits on called the Dix Leadership Committee, and they are the advisory board for Dix Park. But what Kate does is she comes on a quarterly basis and collects input from this board, and then Beverly will channel it monthly about what their board's thoughts are from the park system's standpoint. And that board is chaired by the mayor.
So another study that is underway is the Rocky Branch feasibility study. This is an 18-month study that's been, we're kind of in month 12 of it, and it's basically looking at how are we going to restore and enhance the Rocky Branch, which is a sad little creek that runs along Western Boulevard. It's looking at how can we reestablish a natural meander? How can we improve flooding conditions? And how can we create a better hydrological and ecological condition on the front side of the property? All of this work is funded by grants. So we've got 4 grants currently funding this work, 1 from Duke Energy, and then 3 state-level grants, 1 from the Department of Justice, 1 from the Department of Environmental Quality, and 1 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We're also about to look at submitting an EPA Brownfields Program grant, and 3 of these grants are in partnership with the Dix Park Conservancy. So cities couldn't apply, local government units couldn't apply, but nonprofits could. So we leveraged our partnership with the Conservancy to apply for these monies to pay for this project.
For a little historical perspective, the city of Raleigh moved that creek. It actually, before Western Boulevard joined with Martin Luther King, Western Boulevard ended, and the creek was pretty much meandered over where Western Boulevard is right now.
So to put a finer point on it, we channelized it with the construction of Western Boulevard, and then we put a landfill right next to it. And so that's one of the reasons that the city can't be the applicant to some of these grants, because we contributed to the issue. And so leveraging our relationship with the Conservancy allows us to apply for these federal grant programs to restore this watershed.
Great.
I'm really excited about this project. We are also kicking off a cultural interpretive planning project. Eric Regensberger, who's in the audience, this is week 3 for him. This is his first time in Chambers. So welcome Eric to the team. He'll be helping us with this project. But Dix Park has a very long, complex history. And what we recognize is these are not challenges or things that we're going to erase and forget, but we want the park to embrace this past to help shape the future of the park. And so we are scheduling a public kickoff with members of the Dix Park Leadership Committee, Community Committee, the Dix Park Legacy Committee, the week of December 8th. And this is in connection both with the Biophilic Cities program and the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience. To just put a detail on those, Biophilic Cities is going to help us think about the natural history of the site and how it's relevant to current community. International Coalition of Sites of Conscience helps us think about the cultural or human history of the site and how it's relevant to society's issues today. So we're really excited about those 2 groups coming together. And all of this is also funded by grants. So we received a state-directed grant directly from the state legislature, compliments of Verla INSCO. We have a NEH federal grant and a grant from the Dix Park Conservancy to do this work. And I'm really excited about this one getting going.
What's the output here?
Yep, the output of this is a series of recommendations to metabolize the long history of the park and how do we tell those stories in the future. Is it a signage? Is it a museum? Is it oral histories? Is it programs and events? What are all the different ways we can tell the story of the past, both natural and cultural, to existing and future park goers? The other one, I guess I'm excited about everything. One of the things that is desperately needed at the property are accessibility improvements. This property, even though it was the Department of Health and Human Services, is not accessible to people that are in, it's not accessible. So we are looking to make 6 large investments to improve accessibility at the park. I will go back real quick. All of these are funded through a $1 million grant from Wake County to the Dix Park Conservancy, and it's part of the ARPA funding. So we were able to use, again, our partnership with the Conservancy to leverage ARPA funding for the county to do this work. This is going to include sidewalk replacements. It's going to include ADA parking and access to some of our most visited spaces. And it's going to include those improvements I mentioned to the Gibson Play Plaza to open up accessible parking from remote parking areas to the Gibson Play Plaza. The other thing I'm really excited about is we are also going to be purchasing portable accessible pathways. It's a product called MobiMat, where we're going to be able to create accessible pathways for our programs and events. The last one I think I'm going to talk about is on Tuesday, City Council approved a lease of the 3 stone houses to the Dix Park Conservancy for renovation. These 3 stone houses are these beautiful houses along South Boylan Avenue as you're entering the site. They were built in 1923 and are going to be renovated to include the Dix Park Conservancy's office, a space for nonprofits, a welcome center for the park, and a new restroom facility. And so here's what it looks like kind of in the rendering of it. Here's the new restroom building. The other piece that's really important here is that it's going to include a lot of site work. So right now, there's not an accessible way to get from the Rocky Branch Greenway and the trailhead down at South Boylan up to the ridge. So the site work here is going to create an accessible pathway from that trailhead up to the ridge, coming through this site. And it will become this kind of like hub in the park and our first restroom building in addition to what's at the chapel. So we're very excited about that. We think it'll provide an amenity for Rocky Branch users as well as park users.
And when will they announce the funding for that?
So they do have a single grantor that is funding this work. It is hopefully going to be announced in the next couple of weeks. They're working on some contract language that they wanted to get settled before it is announced. But you will see a sign go up on their construction fencing shortly.
Great. Well, it is, I mean, those buildings are in awful condition.
If they weren't rock buildings, they'd be falling down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're-
any
they're
of the
in-
wood is just decayed, and so to see them saved, they are really a legacy piece. And
The Conservancy will renovate this at their own expense. There will not be any city funds used in this project. However, our team will oversee the renovations and the site work to make sure it all jives with what we do with the city.
And
Yes.
will Flowers Cottage be used for something else?
So Flowers Cottage is probably going to come into the rental program, which has been, I think, something people have been very curious about. We haven't done that because of staff resources. But as we switch into these stone houses, the idea is that Flowers Cottage could become a rentable space for the public.
oh, that's fabulous.
The one neat thing about, well, again, these were built in 1923. The goal is to have something open in 2023 because that would be their 100-year birthday.
Oh, nice.
The last thing I wanted to touch on is Nights of Lights. Nights of Lights is back, and a lot more lights this year. They're actually doing a test night tonight with a lot of social media influencers, drive-through holiday light experience. If you haven't already, you will receive an email with tickets for that. The event dates are Saturday, November 19th through the 24th. There is the 5K again and 2 bike nights. So we're happy that this is back. And just so everyone knows, the way that we structured this with Capital Broadcasting is the first $100,000 of profit from Nights of Lights actually comes back to the park to support park improvements, and we've dedicated that to public art.
I have a question.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I wonder how this parallels the city dark skies initiative and the migrating birds until the end of this month, November 30th. So
That's a great question.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked that. Yep.
Great question.
Yeah.
It's going to have
will
a
note
rolling
that-
dome over it.
Well, the painted bunting loves us now, but so in this, we have worked with Duke to turn off all of the big lights, like the street lights. So it'd be interesting to do a study about the actual lighting amount from the lights versus the street lights that are up the whole time. It's an interesting question. I have never thought about that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I was just going to point out, Kate, one of our board members got information from BPAC member
Yes.
Dwight. And so we'll look at in the future. People really love just to walk and bike through it. So we'll kind of find that balance. It's only year 3 so we're learning every year.
There are a couple of new amenities this year. If you want a night and an evening in an igloo, you can do that. And then there's a holiday outpost where people can also come in and get some hot chocolate before they go through the Nights of Lights. So those are kind of my...
And one other thing on
Yes.
Nights of Lights. I think you said the first 100,000 goes to public art in the park, but I think that there are some charities that are the
Yes.
secondary beneficiaries.
So a couple of different things. One is we partner with 25 different community groups and give them free tickets. And so that's something we've done from the beginning. We also use the Give Play program and identify families who wouldn't be able to pay for a vehicle ticket and give them tickets. Actually for Nights of Lights, the revenue here is just split between the park and the city.
Oh.
Dreamville, the revenue is split between multiple nonprofits.
Okay, that's
So
what I was-
Dreamville gives money to the park through the Dix Park Conservancy and other nonprofits, including Interfaith Food Shuttle.
Okay, that's what I
Like a portion of the revenue.
Oh, yeah. Dreamville gives a portion. I won't, yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to state, well, I had a question with the accessibility part of it.
Yes.
You said the ARPA funds was going to cover that. I just wanted to, can you go back? I just want to let you know that State Parks has 2 grant programs if you need additional funding for the accessibility part. Part of the Parks Recreation Trust Fund and Land and Water Conservation Fund assists local governments with accessibility within their parks. So if you need additional funding, there are 2. Those are 2 options that you can utilize. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, while you're on the slide, that even accessibility is wonderful, but this is not just accessibility for ADA purposes.
Correct.
This is actually providing a sidewalk so people can get places.
That's right.
Currently, they're walking in the gutter or in the grass.
So,
So, you know, this is a huge improvement.
We've been working with, we have a member of our community committee who is a wheelchair user. And her main point is true inclusivity is not about creating specific accessibility for people that are wheelchair users or people that have limited mobility. It's about improving accessibility for all. And so these improvements are accessible improvements, but they're improving connections for all. We met today with the North Carolina Adaptive Sports Group, and we're running through some of these ideas. And so it changed the way I thought about it. It's not for a particular population, it's accessibility for all if you're doing it truly inclusively.
Yep. Well said. Thank you.
That's what we've got going on. I know I haven't been here in a while. I apologize for that. I'm happy to come as often or as not often as you'd like, but really would love, Beverly is now sitting on the leadership committee. Jen was with us for a number of years. And so how this group wants to be involved, we are open to it and welcome it. So please just let us know.
Great. Well, and we know you've been busy in the time you haven't been here. You've made that clear.
And I love Stephen's idea of quarterly. I think you said something about quarterly. That
Yeah,
sounds
I think
nice.
just to see progress quarterly is good, and that because the chair sits on the leadership committee, they can channel those monthly updates.
Kate, thank you
Yes.
very much.
Yeah.
As part of my Southwest life,
Yes.
you come and help us all the time. There's so many moving parts to all of this that we need to get right in the long term. And I still say, if you're happy, I'm happy. Okay.
I appreciate that, Bob.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Lindsay.
This is really exciting, Kate, so thank you very much. And I apologize for all the times that I've forgotten your name in the past 18 months.
Totally fine.
My brain has short-term memory has just been shot since pregnancy, and I'm like, get this back already. But the questions are, 1, what is the thing you're most excited about? And 2, could you please remind us what are the things that we can expect to land and be like real in 2023?
Sure. What am I most excited about? That's a really hard question for me to answer. You could ask me any day, and it might change from day to day. One is the Creek project is so complex and has such a long lead time that I'm excited that we're seeing momentum there because I think that project has huge potential. Yes, okay. Rocky Branch. Yeah. Yep. The cultural interpretive plan, like this, I'm going to look at Troy, like the history of this place is deep and complex and you know, we are trying to do our best. We did an interpretive signage program, but we need to go through a public process to have real conversations with people about how, for example, the descendants of the enslaved hunters want to be represented in the future of the park. I don't need to be having those discussions, right? So I'm really excited about the cultural interpretive plan. I'm sorry, it's all of it. Yeah. In 2023, ideally you will see something open with the stone cottages, because the idea is let's keep momentum going. Open the stone cottages in 23, open Play Plaza, late 24, early 25. Ideally accessibility improvements. Oh, and this month we are abating a number of different small structures and demoing them. So that's going to happen before the end of the year. And then you'll see all the programs and events kick back around. Yep.
All right, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very
Any other
much.
questions that anybody has? Well, yeah, I mean, clearly it is, I've only attended one Dix Park leadership meeting. Actually, Chris attended the October one on our behalf, but it's exciting to see. And it's so, I mean, one thing you didn't miss was we passed the bond.
That's for everybody,
Yeah.
right? That's
and
exciting.
that's all. I mean, and it's not just for Dix.
Right.
And I think one of the things that has been so helpful for us to hear is about all the other kinds of private partnerships, not just funders, but grant programs and all of that you're able to leverage. I mean, leverage is the key to making the kind of transition and transformation that this project involves. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, next, City of Oaks. Chris Hegarty, congratulations on being reelected to the Wake County Board of Education, something near and dear to my heart.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair Clark, and thank you, board members. Now, I will remind you that the last time I saw you, you promised me I wasn't going to be last on the agenda at the next meeting. So this is progress. This is progress. So thank you all, and it's great to be back here. There's some new faces since the last time I've been to the advisory board, and so for some of you, as we look around the table, you're going to hear some very familiar things, but I'm going to try to make sure that everyone gets all the information they need, and then also try to give you the latest developments as well. So I'm going to...
Yeah, we do have a good number of new board members, so starting at A is an important piece.
Great. Let's see here. All right. Well, I am Chris Haggerty, and I'm the Executive Director of the City of Oaks Foundation. So just by a quick show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of the City of Oaks Foundation before? Okay, that's good. That's progress. Every year that number goes up, and that's what we want to see. The City of Oaks Foundation was actually created back in 2010, but at the time it had a very narrow focus. As the years have gone by, and as the city has had different mayors and different city managers, different people employed in the Parks Department, the organization has changed and evolved, just as our board has changed and evolved. So, you know, the original organization was founded really to preserve a single property. The property that you might know now is one of the newest entries in Raleigh's park system, the Joslyn Garden, which is a wonderful property over there between Anderson and White Oak, 4.5 acres of botanical gardens, wonderful, wonderful space. The foundation was created in a partnership between the City of Raleigh, then with outgoing Mayor Charles Meeker, Triangle Land Conservancy, and the Joslyn family, who wanted to find a way to preserve this beautiful property right there in the center of Raleigh, in an area which, as we've all seen, you know, is very vulnerable to getting divided up, split up, big properties turned into smaller properties, and losing some of those bigger, wider natural spaces in some of our older neighborhoods. So since that time, the foundation went from stewarding this single property to more of a hometown land conservancy, and a lot of focus was put on acquiring green space around the city. At that time, the thought was, well, they're not making more land, so let's get what we can while we can. Changes in the state's tax code, though, created a lot of deterrents and barriers for us. So we moved out of that land acquisition mode, I'd say now, gosh, about 5 or 6 years ago. But at the time, we had donations of about 80 acres of parkland, which went to the city of Raleigh, around the Walnut Creek area, off of New Bern Avenue, heading toward the Neuse River. We've had land donations that have gone to other government partners, Wake County government. We have a new public park opening up called the Kellum Wyatt Farm and Nature Preserve that will be opening up not too far from Anderson Point, the city park. So as the organization grew and as we attracted more people to our board, more people with kind of different visions for, what's the best way for the foundation to serve Raleigh, we became involved in other programs, looking at ways that our members could use their own connections for philanthropic purposes. And so one of the ways we've done that is through the creation of several charitable programs. One that Kate mentioned in talking about, she's gone, that she had mentioned, the Give Play program. This is a wonderful program we have that goes to remove barriers for families that want to participate in Raleigh's summer camps and nature programs, where we go out and we raise money from private sources to provide that fee assistance that's so important. And this year, for the first time this past summer, again, coming out, a lot of the momentum coming out of the pandemic, we really got a lot of community buy-in, and we were able to provide over 100 families in Raleigh with a week of summer camp for their children. And so we're really proud to hit that 100 benchmark, and we're going to just keep moving forward after that. Other smaller projects, it's looking for needs. We've done, we've accepted grants for park improvements in individual neighborhood parks, not to the scale of Dick's, right? We're kind of your friendly neighborhood land conservancy. So smaller parks, neighborhood parks. Benches and bike racks, if you ever see the really artistic bike racks around town, either with some of the acorns or with like the Raleigh cutouts. That was from a crowdsourcing project that we did several years ago, to not just add more bicycle racks and make Raleigh more bicycle friendly, but also to invest a little bit more in public art. So camps, sustainability programs, the financial assistance, there's been a lot of different ways that we've been looking to make a difference. So to give you a quick snapshot of some things just this past year, our Give Play program donated just over $17,000 for these summer camp programs. We have a little bit left over heading into next year's fundraising. We're getting that ramped up. I think I lowballed this next one. We had some corporate grants, but then we also had some nonprofit grants come in for this wonderful collaboration where we planted 100 trees in southeast Raleigh. And this was a wonderful program because we were able to collaborate with all of the different departments across, or all the different individual departments across the park system. So we had our volunteer program that engaged dozens and dozens of volunteers from the company Accenture. Accenture helped provide corporate funds, and then we were able to get funds from the Triangle Community Foundation to help actually purchase the trees for the planting. Our Parks Division was able to locate areas all around the Southeast Raleigh area in parks, in greenways, even near some of the cemeteries that the city maintains that could benefit from these trees. And as we know, as we plant more trees, we create more shade, we create a positive environmental aspect, we raise property values. There are just compounding and compounding benefits from something as small as this, but being able to bring everyone together and everyone sort of have a piece of it was just a wonderful community project. Again, I mentioned Joslyn Garden. We continue to raise money to support the gardening efforts there. Partnership Raleigh, are you familiar with the program? Raleigh Summer Youth Employment and Partnership Raleigh. This is a summer program that's used. We train a lot of older high school and college-age students that come in and work with the city in job training, not just giving them real practical job experience, but then bringing in experts in different fields that can work with the students, mentor the students. And in this particular project, one of the things that we did this year was we were able to, with Partnership Raleigh, work on the Partnership Raleigh Youth Conservation Corps and actually place young men and women, particularly young men and women of color, young women, men and women who haven't really been historically represented in these parks fields and leadership, into hands-on work where they could not just receive the summer job, but then reach out, network, talk to people, not just with the park system, but with North Carolina State University, with the Museum of Natural Sciences, with other people in conservation and biologically related fields, and really build their network. So then as they looked at college opportunities, as they looked at continuing their education and the professional development, they would have those ins, right? They would have that foot in the door that so many people rely on for those good jobs, for those first jobs. So it really is kind of helping to spread those opportunities. So we've come a long way from just land conservation, and I wanted to share that with you.
Can I ask you a question? Partnership Raleigh, is that a separate entity?
It's in the Housing and Neighborhoods Department.
Oh, okay.
And Chris was able to get the grant. They had the Summer Youth Employment Program, and they assigned them to our Youth Conservation Corps.
Okay, good. So I know that we've had Youth Conservation Corps presentations, and Dix has also had a Youth Conservation Corps. And the one thing that I do recall somewhat painfully from those two programs was that not all of the youth were from Raleigh. And
that's correct.
And
Yeah.
and that we need to really focus on making sure that it's Raleigh youth that benefit from those programs.
And this is something I'll tell you just quite candidly, we struggle with through a lot of our aid programs, where we will oftentimes have more aid available than we have recipients for it. Oh, wow. We do a great job with our financial assistance, staff working with parks. Debbie Houston, if you've had Debbie come and speak before you before, you know how hard she works. She reaches out with social workers, she reaches out with community shelters, with our public schools, with daycare, with so many different areas. In fact, we've created some special relationships with Raleigh Rescue Mission, with children experiencing homelessness. And it's not on here, but one of our last big projects coming out of the pandemic was we got to take a dozen or so kids to the Hurricanes, not just to see the hockey game, but put them up in the luxury box with hamburgers and hot dogs and the Canes coming by and signing everything for them. And it was just like a really great time to get them, out and together and build some fellowship. So some of the things that we're looking to do as we expand our partnership with the city going forward is that we've really put a lot of effort into supporting community groups. And some of these are getting the groups off the ground and formed. I've probably talked to a dozen different groups of individuals that are interested in Friends of the Parks groups, but it's hard sometimes to get the momentum. It's hard sometimes to see them gel behind like one particular leader, right? I've had several folks that were very interested in putting together an organization for the benefit of Chavis. But it's been hard to get people to come together and kind of formalize a leadership structure or say, I want to be the one who will sign the memorandum of agreement, or I will be the one who will take the responsibility to, approve checks or to write thank you letters or things like that. But we've talked to folks at Chavis, at Barwell Road. We do have an existing group now for Millbrook Dog Park. We have a really exciting project that'll be going on, Skate Raleigh. I don't know if you've heard anything about that yet. But
Deborah at Smoky Hollow.
Smoky Hollow, Madam
I
Chair.
never know what to call that park.
Well, we do now.
Really
The council approved Smoky
Okay.
Hollow on Tuesday.
All right. So we have a dynamic group of community folks that are out there, boosters that are raising money for this. And the fact that if this temporary installment works here, it's a great pilot project for what we could put in other areas of the city. We talk about coordinating healthy outdoor lifestyles. I don't know, Ken and Helene, if I should be putting this in the public meeting yet, but it's out there now. So we're talking, it's my podium for now. We are talking about how we can better work with the city as a coordinator for the Wake County Senior Games. And this is something very exciting. Again, that if you look at the city's strategic plan and the parks plan about getting people outdoors and active and promoting those healthy lifestyles, this is something where as a charity, as a nonprofit, we can really add a lot of our resources to the existing hard work and expertise of the people already working in it and hopefully make things a little bit easier for everybody involved. Neighborhood Ecology Corps is a wonderful after-school program that we have for middle school, early high school students. It's an after-school program for kids that are interested in learning about their community. Again, this is a program that's really targeting a lot of the neighborhoods in southeast Raleigh. They'll come together at Walnut Creek Wetland Center. We've had programs at St. Monica Teen Center, where they're not only just learning about nature and conservation, but they're looking to do special projects in their neighborhood. Everything from stream restoration and cleanup to bird boxes, pollinator gardens, just wonderful, wonderful things. I mentioned Raleigh Youth Conservation Corps. The financial barriers, just like the Give Play program, we're looking out and seeing, are there other areas where we might be able to create similar programs? Maybe it's in the arts, maybe it's in areas of our cultural programs where that financial barrier is keeping people in our city from participating. And then finally, the conservation of green space for parks and greenways. I know you tackled a greenway issue at the beginning of the meeting. It's a lot easier when we can get people just to give us the land. So we've succeeded in that, getting land for important greenway connections. I'm excited about a project that'll help connect the capital area greenway system through Umstead Park that's coming up. We've got a couple of other land opportunities that we can't talk about now because we don't want to jinx it, but hopefully we'll be coming back to in the future with some other land donations that'll benefit the park system and all the residents of the city. So really, that's it. For those of you that did not know anything about the foundation, I hope this was a good introduction. I'm available to come out and meet with you anytime and answer questions. And for those of you that are familiar with us, I hope I gave you a little bit something new tonight that you can take home. Thank you.
Questions?
I would just a comment on each of the committee work plans was how can we participate in supporting public-private partnerships or offsetting what the Parks Department does. And Chris is the person. I mean, the Conservancy is doing an outstanding job at Dix Park, and Chris is doing an outstanding job for the park system and really refocusing a lot on health, wellness programs and camps and pivoting a little bit away, but still having a focus on natural resources and conservation. So each of you have a network, and each of you have your giving strategies. But to me, there's no better to say, do you, as a gift, can you send a kid to camp for me? And Chris has been delivering on that. So I would encourage you to reach out to Chris and have coffee or do whatever just to help build his network, because this is our park system partner, which aligns with your goals and aspirations. So,
thank you, Stephen.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from any board members? Okay.
I'm trying not to keep you late.
Well, that's and we won't put you quite on the quarterly schedule, but we will have you come back. Yeah, Rashawn.
How do we get in contact with Mr. Chris if we contact?
We will send you his information as a follow-up. Absolutely. Thank you.
And although I will, I think giving to the Give Play program for summer camp is really awesome. There are other barriers to children participating in, say, a basketball league or other things. And we do within the Parks and Recreation department have a donation mechanism as well. So they're complementary, not competitive. And Play It Forward, you can go online and find that, and it is someplace that I try to give to every year. So.
I want to ask the director, I'm seeing neighborhood parks pop up with some small things they need. In a couple of cases, it's replacing stairs with ramps. Are these kinds of projects things we could ask perhaps in the future? Because these are oftentimes small parks in neighborhoods that are walkable and usable, toys for kids to get on and play and basketball and like that. And we don't need to overlook those if we can, because
I completely
those
agree.
are important to people who are oftentimes staying closer to home.
Yeah,
we've actually gotten a report on those kinds of, but it'll be time for us to get another one on that, because with the penny for parks that the city council put in place over a year ago, there was now a dedicated funding stream for those kinds of issues to be addressed. It used to be that they were, in fact, when we originally put the Parks Bond together in 2019, we had a whole list of small parks that needed those kinds of things done, and those were taken out of the bond because the penny for parks takes.
Some of these are looking for grants also, I believe.
Yeah, so Chris still may be here, but if a neighborhood is interested in raising funds for their neighborhood park to offset what the city can't do, that's really the beauty of this partnership is that some people don't want to give their money to us, right? You're like, your government, I already give you my money. So that's why Chris comes in and says, I have a track record of working with neighbors or businesses, and then he works with us on the quality control of the product that's delivered and then funds us for it. So, yep.
And just to add to that, Stephen, one thing that's been exciting too is then building new partnerships with people in the industry, where we might have designers that are willing to maybe come in and possibly, pro bono assist in the design process or the permitting process or other things that would be at a city expense. But if someone else is willing to come in and do it, as like a pro bono service where maybe an advanced designer is training someone new at the firm, and this gives them that experience, right, on kind of a small project, but it's overseen by someone with those credentials. It's a great way to kind of minimize the costs, get the people in the neighborhood the project they need, while the company is able to train some of their younger, newer. It's a win-win all the way around. So anytime we can find those sorts of collaborations, it's always a good success for everybody. So thanks for mentioning that, Steve.
Great. Thank you. Great. Okay. The minutes. We don't have them. That's okay. We won't worry about approving them then without seeing them in advance. And then it's the director's report, which you're passing out.
Carol, yep. I'll pause for a second.
Okay.
So quite a few items, but I'll go them in the interest of time pretty quickly. One that you might not be aware of it as a board, which is this is something Ken has led for us for well over a decade. We have a 30-year relationship with the North Carolina High School Athletic Association and the city of Raleigh and Wake County and Cary and NC State. We host all the state championships, but we actually pay them to do that. The return is we, over 5 years, will spend around $900,000, but then annually, Ken, it is how much in economic impact? $3.1 million. Right. So we get $3 for every dollar that we spend. The other thing is, families come, they experience the Capitol, they experience Wake County. So 30-year anniversary of that, and that's been under Ken's leadership for some time. That's cool. It is. Yeah. And you'll see in there is
what sport?
All. Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Yep.
You do lacrosse now?
I'm not sure. Is there high school lacrosse, right?
Ken's going to put on his jacket.
Yeah.
So it's typically 15 championships. Sorry, Ken Hissler, assistant director. We typically host 15 championships. Regrettably, Beverly, this year, this contract does not include soccer and lacrosse. It historically has over at Wake Med. One of the challenges is Wake Med's getting very popular, and so are high school sports. The real issue is the high school players want to be on a college or a professional level field, and because of Wake Med's relationship with the ACC College Cup, they're really putting forth some effort they couldn't accommodate on the championship field. Working with the High School Athletic Association, even though their secondary fields are excellent, they're not the stadium field. So the High School Athletic Association, being fair to the students and the coaches, are going to work with one of the other wonderful municipalities within the state to be able to host those. Okay. But it is 13 others: football, basketball, volleyball, men's and women's tennis, gymnastics, cheerleading. We host all of those right here, swimming and diving. And some of those are at City of Raleigh venues as well as our other partners that are listed.
North Carolina's City of Championships.
Cool. Well, thank you for the update.
The second item is that the council approve the purchase of the play equipment for Gibson Play Plaza. That was a procedural. We directly bought it from the vendor. Typically, we bid them, but we designed a custom playground, so we bought it directly from the vendor. Ken and Scott have been leaders in the city in the community gardens and food disparity issues. I'm not sure if we reported on this in the summer, but we are actually buying a refrigerated truck as a department. And yes, so we have a program already where we provide, through partnership with the produce projects, produce at 2 locations, and we're going to expand that to 4, and we'll expand that greater over time when we have our own refrigerated truck as a department. Ken's most recent presentation to council was an update on us collaborating with other nonprofits to create community gardens on city property. Our first one will be at Barwell Road. We already have it designed and the community behind it. So what we have done is reached out to multiple nonprofits. Essentially what we'll do is we'll issue an RFQ to say, who would like to maintain and operate these gardens and meet all these criteria? So essentially we have great real estate assets. We know where we have food disparity, and we'll look for nonprofits to do that and partner with us. The council approved $321,000 to support that program. So that's really exciting. There is great nonprofits out there doing it. We realize we have great real estate assets, so we're leveraging the strengths of what we have.
Stephen, has there been some thought about using that as kind of a jumping off point for Raleigh to join the Edible Cities Network?
I do not know that, but
it's a real thing. I
believe it. So one of the leaders in food, community gardens is Aaron White with the Community Food Lab in Raleigh. So we'll be talking to him about that in Edible City. Okay.
Oh, I think we absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say we have some good people that. I'll pause now, and I'm going to. I did like a 10-minute park bond update. So congratulations to everybody at this table, and thank you for your time and your advocacy. It was a historic day. I mean, 73% approval rating was higher than what the polling projected. So that is very exciting. The presentation I gave to council really focused on 2 areas. We have about 25% of our previous bond projects still to complete. And predominantly, most of them are in design and construction, so they're on the tail end. But we did focus on is committing to the council, we would come back in the first quarter, and we'll come back to this board in the first quarter of the year to talk about how we equitably implement the next bond. So some of the key factors are projects that have long lead times. So master plans, you all learned, will take 18 months. It takes some time. And that means that no dirt is moving, and people might think that their bond isn't in progress. So advancing like Kyle Drive and the Neuse River Park right away. And then looking at this board and previous board members worked with staff on selecting projects that were based off of the Wake County Health Vulnerability Index. And I think some of you have seen that. It has a series of factors from education to poverty to home ownership. And there are higher priority areas where the city should be investing in. And a lot of our projects are in those areas. So we will be recommending to council to advance those before others. So I gave like 4 bullets to the council to say this is a preview, but we'll go through. We've been working since April, and I say we, I really mean Shasheen has been a great leader since April, and we've been working with our planning department, our engineering services department, and transportation. This is not just a parks bond. This is an investment in basically civic infrastructure. So there'll be 5 or 6 departments leading the way. And we're committed to bringing a very detailed presentation to you all and the council in Q1 of next year to say, here are the projects, here is why, are you okay with it? And literally hire people before, so the money really doesn't come until July of next year. And what we'll recommend is bringing people on board before that. So when July comes, we can hit the ground running. Yep.
Thank you for saying that, because when we were having this conversation before about the Greenway and how we got $210,000 in 2014 and so many of these projects are not completed yet, I was really wondering how are we going to take all these really exciting projects that
Yes.
we just talked to people about and really make them happen now, so that we're not looking like 10 years from now we have to increase the budget even more. So it's
Yeah.
great to hear.
It's a great point. I'm reminded by the city manager almost every time we talk about the bond that you need to deliver. It's the largest request of our community ever. A key factor is there's 20 projects in this bond, and there was over 70 in the last. Now these projects are big and they're complicated, but what our project managers will say is you can see a little bridge can take a lot of time and effort. Sometimes building a building is a lot smoother than it is trying to replace a bridge. So, but yeah, what we've done is build a coalition of team members across the city. Our staff will really focus on the community-based portions of the project, and our engineering services department will focus on design. So we're going to take a combination approach moving forward versus our staff having to do everything from engagement to board to manage the budgets, managing consultants. We're going to have a team approach for every project that we're going to deliver. So.
And one difference about this bond from the 2014 is that there's been more, in the pro forma on this, built-in cost escalation. And that had not happened in 2014. It was a flat pro forma.
It was.
And
That's
so,
correct.
And so this is, much more realistic, and so we should be able to achieve these things. Although, inflation's, even when the pro formas were done, it's changed, but it is still at least a big step further ahead than when we did it in 2014.
Yeah. And for projects like Chavis and Tarboro Road and Sertoma, again, credit to Shasheen and her team. We've hired engineers and architects already to look at these projects, give us cost estimates, escalation, so we're not starting from scratch. It's now blending what the community wants with some of that assessment work we've already done.
May I ask a question? Some of those projects that you're thinking about that the Parks Department needs to do, could you let us know so that when we're working, the committees are working on work plans, that we would have those ideas that you're simmering,
Yeah,
the department's simmering. We got these committees here, and
I think that's an excellent point. What we can do is when we bring that in the first quarter, the board can discuss which projects they prefer to have engagement through what committee. And we'll propose to you the methodologies for community engagement already in the first quarter. So the board will have their choice, board members will have their choice on what projects they want to participate in and which projects they may not. So yeah, that's the purpose of coming to you early, like before the projects are even funded, to align your work, align other boards and committees in the city's work with them. Yeah, it's a great point.
All right. You want other things on here that you wanted to touch on?
Let's see. We heard from the Stone Houses. A really big milestone. We might hear from CORAC representatives. The city has adopted a public art strategic plan, and that's a big move. Our public art staff our arts staff is amazing. But this really advances an more equitable approach, not just where the money goes. Let's look at where there is more access to art all around. We'll hear about Smoky Hollow, almost said DM. And then there's just a list of great opportunities coming up. Coats for a Cause is Saturday. You heard from the Raleigh Youth Council. We talked about planting trees. And we are participating in the Raleigh Lights Out migration. That is on the final, but it expires this month. So, and that is all. Oh, thank you.
All right. And so I get, on the agenda, it says Parks Bond debriefing. Is there any further that you want from us? Any other questions on the Parks Bond that
No.
board members have?
I'll take any questions, of course. I would just say you can expect a pretty detailed presentation just about on every project in the bond. So we'll manage it for your time, but that's our next milestone that the council has requested.
Okay, very good. Committees and Parks Committee. Well, and actually, I have something to talk about committees. So you saw in your board agenda the standing liaison and ad hoc committees, and people's names are by them based on what they've sort of said before. Not everybody has a committee assignment. But Giovanna has a blank one of these that she's going to pass around, and I would like everybody to sign up for at least one committee and really two, so that we can have a meatier level of conversation. If you can't be on the second committee, you really need to be a liaison. But these are important for us as we start the new year to start. And as Marcia said, and as Stephen said, we're going to have we can be more effective as a board if we're doing some of the work in committees and getting some of the input. And so, as chair, I really feel strongly that you need to sign up for a committee.
Beverly, can I add that I think there might be some flexibility in the times
Yes.
and dates. So if that's a major constraint for you, then that's something that could be discussed with the committee
It can
chair.
be. It's something that's not something we can turn on a dime, because the Giovanna has to organize the space. But it is something that once we set a committee chair, we can do, and then it'll be reset, but it can't be changed on a monthly basis. But we can, going into 2023, we can do that. So I really feel like committees are something that will lead us forward, build more knowledge as collegial board members. So anyway, so that's coming around. Take a look at it. Think about, and I think in the board agenda information, there was already, Giovanna gave you information about each committee. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, ask Stephen, and we'll go from there. So thank you for reminding me, Giovanna. I'm so excited about that idea and almost forgot it. And then Parks Committee. And Parks will really be looking at a lot. I think when we've referenced Parks before, we've referenced that it did fee assessment, but really that's supposed to be a separate short-term task force rather than a committee. And looking at, as we develop new parks, we will develop master plans. And so that will start in Parks Committee. And so that is, the plans will come to the entire board for approval, but a lot of nitty-gritty work can happen in the Parks Committee. So I think that's an important opportunity for folks to be looking at. Okay, and then, so is there anybody, there is no, okay.
But it's coming a separate one.
Oh,
Same thing.
separate,
Okay.
oh, okay, they just lands right here. So there is no Parks Committee report, I'm assuming, because it has not met, but that will be happening. And then the Fred Fletcher Committee, do you have a report?
Mike, okay, sorry, y'all. I did a doodle poll of the folks who signed up to join the Fletcher Committee, and the majority said that next Monday, the 21st, worked best to meet, and I realize it doesn't work for everybody, and I apologize, April. Mary, I'd hoped we could meet in December after in between the sandwiched holidays, but Mary's team is about to be really busy with Holiday Express, so we're crunching this in and meeting on Monday. I need to follow up with her because I need an update on our location for a meeting. Initially, we were going to meet at 5 Points Active Center for Adults, but she couldn't reach the person who manages the center or something. So I will reach out to her tomorrow and let everybody know the location for that meeting. It's just an orientation, it's an overview. I'll take notes and send them out to anyone who can't make it. It's not any actions happening there. So
Applications, people can submit application or nominations starting in January. Is that correct?
likely, yeah, that's how we've done it in the past.
We don't have to get involved with nominating, but
No.
that's a staff thing.
No, oh, we can help promote it, but like if you know someone like that. But our meeting on Monday is just an orientation, and then the call for nominations will go out in January. I think that'll be for the month of January, and then we will meet. Our committee will meet again probably in February, and we'll sit there and just go through them all and be like, pick out our winners, and then we probably won't meet again until we have our celebration in May. So that's what Fletcher looks like.
That's okay. Great. Greenways Committee, we had, as we've been continuing to hear from different nonprofits, we had the David Proper from the Conservation Fund, which has purchased lots and lots of property on behalf of the city of Raleigh and Wake County and North Carolina, and and we heard about the projects that they have done, and staff and the Greenway staff has worked with them. But as Stephen said earlier, as we look towards public-private partnership, the more ongoing partner is City of Oaks, that is the foundation there. So. That's all from the Greenway Committee. All right. And then Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees.
Yes, we had a really inspiring meeting because of the City of Raleigh, the Urban Forestry Division. One of the things that we've talked about since this committee was formed was tree equity, to lower the hot places in our city that lack tree canopy, lack shade. And a study's been done, and specific streets that are really the hottest streets have been identified. And this makes me really happy, folks. The city is going to, over the next 3 years, plant 1,000 trees in southeast Raleigh.
Over the next how many years?
3 years.
3 years. Should do that in one.
So
These are not plug-in. These are actual trees. Okay. That's the difference. Yeah.
They're going to have to hire people to help do them because they're going to be decent-sized trees.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyway, I thought that program was so inspiring. I would love for you all to see Chris Crumb's program about
We need to hear good news.
Yeah, that's good news. And the other thing is that this will be the second year coming up that the Parks Department's going to have a Tree of the Year. So people get to nominate their favorite tree. It has to be visible from the street, so it can't be a backyard tree. And for Arbor Day, the winning tree that people vote on will be the Tree of the Year, and there'll be a sign for that tree. So I think that's really a cool thing for the City of Oaks to do, to have a Tree of the Year.
Doesn't have to be an oak, though.
No, doesn't. But anyway, so we had a wonderful program about Lights Out, which Carol mentioned earlier, that helps migrating birds travel safely at night. That's when they fly these long distances. So anyway, this is some information, and that ends at the end of this month. And we would really, the committee was really talking about, wouldn't it be great if we could get more neighborhoods, find some way to get people in their neighborhoods to dampen their lights out for about 6 weeks to help with bird migration. So that, but just now, it's just the city of Raleigh that buildings that participate. So the state buildings and other properties are not necessarily part of that. So that's another way that we need to work to have more engagement for the dark skies. So that's join us.
Great. Thank you very much on that. And then Arts Commission?
Yeah, so the Arts Commission has a lot going on. As Stephen mentioned, the Public Art Strategic Plan has been adopted by City Council, so that was really big. A lot of different events, so if you guys want to write these dates down, there's a lot of stuff going on in the city. The Philharmonic Association Triangle Youth Music Program is going to have a concert at Maimondi Concert Hall. That's going to be Saturday, the 20th. Is that Saturday? Well, it's November 20th. The Master Chorale is going to be performing Joy.
Sorry,
the
Chris.
season. Yeah.
Saturday's the 19th.
Okay, so Sunday, the 20th. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The Master Chorale is going to be performing Joy of the Season. That's going to be on 12/12. There's going to be a Polar Express program that's going to be on November 23rd and 25th. I think that's also going to be at Maimondi Hall, but I was writing stuff down as quickly as I could, and I didn't write anything down for that one. The Justice Theater Project. This is kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Justice Theater Project, but they... Yeah. Yeah, they're a really good group. They're down, I think it's up Glenwood. Yeah, all the way up Glenwood, really far. But on December 10th, they're going to be performing a Black Nativity. So that's going to be a really cool one.
If you haven't seen Black Nativity, it is, and they're doing it at the Art Museum in the Bryan Outdoor Theater on the 10th and 11th, I think, right? Do you have a son in it?
He's not this year. He's been in it twice, so I think he's been there, done that. But it's a great organization, and it's really great, as we talked about youth, just for them to even know about the opportunity to audition and take part in something like that.
Yeah, I only wrote down the 10th, but they have a good website that's pretty informative. So if you go to Justice Theater Project, they may already help. They may also have it on the 11th. Raleigh Little Theater is going to be performing Cinderella. That's going to be December 2nd to the 18th. So I think they're going to be performing it almost every day during that period. Theater in the Park is going to be doing Ira David Woods' Christmas Carol. That's going to be December 9th through the 11th. The Raleigh Boy Choir is going to be performing Carols of Christmas at Edenton Street Church on December 9th. The Carolina Ballet is going to be performing the Nutcracker at the Duke Energy Center of Performing Arts. That's going to be December 16th to the 24th. The Raleigh, let's see if I can even read my own handwriting here. Raleigh Ringers Holiday Concerts is going to be December 17th and 18th. That's also going to be at Maimondi. And then WRAL is going to be hosting First Night on New Year's Eve, and that's going to be across downtown. There's also going to be an Illuminate Art Walk on December 2nd. That's going to be downtown, close by the Marriott. And then there's a few kind of public art programs that are going to be going on. If you guys are familiar with Deborah Ashheim, she's going to be back in town. She does kind of a Raleigh Stories project. If you guys aren't familiar with it, you can follow her on social media. She's going to be back in town November 29th to December 4th, and you can reach her. I can provide you guys with her email address if you're interested in getting in touch with her. But she does these illustrations that are based on Raleigh stories, and she'll draw you, and she really wants to understand your story as well. So whether you're new to Raleigh or you've been in Raleigh or you have a really unique story, she likes to understand them, and she puts them up at the Law Enforcement Public Art Center, and she gets to know your story. And one of the goals of it, which I think is pretty cool, is she explains the stories to law enforcement officers so that they can kind of get to know the community and the members of the community a little bit better. She's on Instagram too, if you want to check her out. And there's DeborahAschheim.com is her website. There's a new city public murals program that's going to be going on. The city is accepting mural applications, and the city is accepting wall submission applications. So if you have a wall that you want a cool mural to go on, or if you know somebody that has a wall, you can submit the wall, and you can also submit mural applications. You can get a mural.
It's on the Greenway.
And I had it written down somewhere else, but this city is also doing, or the Public Arts Commission is also doing a grants program. So if you are interested in getting grants to support your artwork, if you're an aspiring artist or you know one, there's going to be a few of these. If you want to reach out to me, I can give you the information. There's going to be online and in-person workshops so that you can understand the grant process. And I think, there's also an American Indian Heritage Celebration on November 18th and 19th, but I don't have where that's going to be at. Was that the one at Dick's, or is that? No, that's a different one.
This is a different one. Yep, I think it's in conjunction with maybe the state.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and actually, that's not it, but that's it for Arts Commission. But I have another page. No, I did go to the Dick's leadership meeting, and there were a couple dates there that I thought would be kind of cool for, for Night of Lights, the bike nights. If you guys are interested, it's November 30th and December 7th, and there's a 5K, and that's going to be on the 19th. So.
You're a good reporter.
Yeah. All right. Bicycle and Pedestrian and Advisory Commission, I attended that meeting on, it was a long time ago. It was right after this last meeting because we're meeting again next Monday. And we got a report on the Lake Wheeler Road project. And so I think that will be coming to us for an update.
That's
as
correct.
well.
Yep.
And it's, because it's a greenway and a multi-use path, and it's really wide on the Dix Park side, but has lots of crosswise, has a lot of challenges because you've got an at-grade, still active railroad crossing down near the farmer's market, and that new entrance there, so there are a lot of challenges, but so it's inexpensive, but it will be a bit. I mean, I drove down Lake Wheeler yesterday, and I was like, wow, you forget what a really crummy road it is. Of course, there's lots of new development there too. So then Historic Cemeteries Commission. Do we? Charles is here for all this, isn't he?
Yes. Good evening. Good evening to the board, Madam Chair, members of the board, to our director. I am Charles Craig. I'm one of the park superintendents and the staff liaison for Historic Cemetery Advisory Board. One quick note, just want to send a reminder. The board consists of 7 members. We have 1 vacancy currently. The board also meets every other month as their core team, and on the off cycle is the committee meeting. So with that being said, our last meeting was on September 22nd. We skipped the month of October, and we will meet again in the month of November. There's a scheduling conflict for the meeting in November because of Thanksgiving. So we decided to push it back and not meet on Thanksgiving, and we're going to meet December 1st. One of the items that the board is going to be working on at their next meeting in the new year is looking at a columbarium. A columbarium proposal is set up, columbarium is the final resting place for cremations. Okay. At Mount Hope Cemetery, there is a section of the cemetery that cannot be used for interment because of rocks. So in order to utilize this space, thinking innovatively, we can build up. So the board is going to look at it, going to look at some proposals, come up with some ideas on next steps so we can continue to keep Mount Hope Cemetery active. Even though we will run out of space one day, we can still offer another resting place such as cremation in the future. Okay? At this point, that concludes my report. Like I said, our next meeting is going to be on December 1st, and hope to see you again. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Dick's leadership, we got sort of Kate, and you've got your dates, and Stephen, do you have anything to? I think that meets next week, and so I'll attend that. And Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board.
I do not have a report. I don't want to put Troy on the spot. I wasn't able to make the meeting, and that was almost a month ago because they meet next week. Oh, he's coming up. He's game. All right, Troy.
I don't mind being on the spot. I'm Troy Burton. I manage Historic Resources and Museums. And my understanding is Jennifer's term as our liaison may be coming to an end.
That was my next statement.
And so we would love to have a participant from this body come and join us on the third Wednesdays of the month, except for next week. It's hard to follow Charles as an act here. However, we are not meeting next Wednesday. We will meet on the 30th. And we're a good group. We're a squirrely bunch, but we love history. We like getting things done, and we're fun to be involved with.
Thank you for saying that. I was going to say the same, that we need a new liaison. I am, my next meeting will be my last, I guess, until someone is appointed. And it is a great board to go to. I first volunteered because it's literally down the street from my house, so I can walk there. But it also turns out to be a fun group, and they always have snacks.
Yes.
So, highly recommended.
Which I've noticed you are devoid of.
We might be changing that.
And they meet at the Mordecai House, so it's a kind of friendly, low-key atmosphere, which is lovely.
But three things I'll point out. Holiday Express is back after a 3-year hiatus. We did sell out again, even though we doubled capacity. As a gesture of goodwill towards your volunteerism on this board, we do offer tickets to Holiday Express, and so you should look for a note from Giovanna or from one of us giving you that opportunity to have that experience at Holiday Express. Awesome.
Don't scalp them. Don't scalp them.
Number two, again, for the 5th year, we will have our Holidays with the Popes program at the Pope House Museum. That is December the 3rd and 4th. I would encourage you to come and participate in that program. That is an opportunity to see the holidays from a different perspective, and I'll just leave it at that. And then lastly, at the Core Museum, we will once again be participating in Raleigh First Night. So if you sometimes are in downtown Raleigh and you've done that event before and you think to yourself, gosh, it's cold, gosh, this parade is crazy, I want a space to go inside, the City Museum will be open, and we are doing a program that evening as part of Raleigh First Night. And if you'd like, you could drop a little coin in our gift shop as well. We will not discourage you from doing that.
Well, and along that line, it is a great place to go at this holiday season and buy Raleigh-centric note cards and gifts and other things. That and Deco are my two go-to places.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Troy. What time does your Historic Resources and Museums group meet?
We meet at 5:30, the 3rd Wednesday of every month, and our standing meeting is at the Mordecai Visitors Center.
I think it's the 4th Wednesday, right? Because it's after, it's the week after.
That's
this
correct,
meeting.
sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. That's why she's the brains of the operation.
Computers. That's right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chair comments. A couple of things. I was at the city council meeting on Tuesday. I won't tell you for how long. Not as long as Stephen. Although It was long, but we did present to the council the recommendation of this board to rename Devereaux Meadows Park to the Smoky Hollow Park. There was a little discussion about that, but I explained to council and the mayor that we had had a really impressive presentation by Octavia Rainey, and it really was very compelling to understand the history. We recognize that the park itself is across the street from the neighborhood, but that after a lot of conversation and discussion, we felt real good about that. So it was approved. Yes. And the other thing is, and I meant to start with this, but the other thing I said to council was thank you to the community for supporting the Parks Bond. That it is such a critical thing, and it's the biggest Parks Bond this city has ever contemplated. And so it is awesome. I sent out an email telling you all when I was going to volunteer for Holiday Express, and nobody wanted to sign up with me. But it really is a fun thing to do. And there's probably still volunteer needs. I mean, there's all kinds of, you make reindeer food with cereal, and I'll have little jelly jars that you make hot chocolate mix with, and kids get to ride and do. And the only way it happens is with volunteers. So if you still want to sign up, even if I'm not there, I might be there as the.
You pick the night, we'll make it happen. So
Yeah.
if you can go online and register, but if there's a night that you and your family want to volunteer, we will figure out a way to make that happen.
It's really it's a very festive, pictures with Santa Claus, etc. So anyway, and I did not forward. I got an email last night that I will forward to everyone, and it's a topic we haven't covered tonight, and that is on the Neuse River closure. The Neuse River Greenway is going to be closed for over 2 miles for almost 2 years. And the email that I got, there is a detour that's set up, and we did discuss that some in the Greenway Committee as well. But the email was pointing out that people from Nightdale do not have access because the two bridges, both Milburnie Bridge and Mingo Creek, are in the middle of where, and so I'm hoping that staff will be able to look at that and phase this in some way, but out of respect for that concern, because that, and Marcia, you brought up earlier, and it brought it to mind. I saw the sign on the Greenway maybe 3 weeks ago, and I got my text notification this week, and it's getting closed next week. And so I think we need to figure out a longer lead time for things that are as consequential to our outdoor activity as the Neuse River Trail is. And so, I mean, over 2 miles and such a long, I mean, if it were 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, and it was 6 months even, that would be more manageable. But that's going to be a big bite for our community, and it's used very extensively. So.
And the town of Nightdale reached out to us, so yeah. And I don't know if there's an easy solution for it, because it's about construction sequencing.
Yeah,
So,
and it's not that we are
No, it is Raleigh Water.
my mistake. It's not Parks closing the Greenway.
Correct.
It is the water sewer project. So
correct.
it's tied to growth.
It is. They're making the capacity larger in that area. Yep.
So, but I want you all to all know about that closure, because it, if you're not on that text list, you might not know until too late. So anyway, and that is from me. I've got the committee things that you've signed up for, so I'll sort of organize that, maybe send you some emails if I see too much weight one way or another, and we'll get those all going. And thank you all so much.
Two things. If you have not RSVP for the holiday social for next month, please do so, even though I know most
December 15th at, on, the-
15th after the board meeting at 5 points. So our meeting will not be here next month, it'll be at 5 points.
so we will have an agenda item. We'll have a meeting. We'll have a review.
We typically have a meeting, depending on the agenda. It could be, anybody want to say anything? But it could be board reports, but we usually keep it light.
Okay.
And there are going to be are there going to be other groups invited to that as well besides our board? Okay.
All of the ancillary committees.
Within Raleigh Park.
So there's 6. Yep. All the representatives, so the Historic Resources, CORAC, and, Public Art Design Board, and the Raleigh Arts Commission, all of them are invited. Yep.
At the same time, 6, or is it going to be earlier?
It's going to be after the board meeting.
So the board meeting will be at 6? Okay.
And the second thing is the citizens that came, they wanted you all to have additional information that they did not want me to hand out during the meeting. So I have those here and go blank actually.
Okay, thank you. So I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yep.